What's up? What's up? This is Adri,
And Alyssa,
and you're listening to
Chat in the Hat. Okay. We are back with our second pull from the listener's hat.
Woo woo.
We had a break in between episodes with our mom's interview.
Oh yeah.
So now we're back to the hat. So I think we're good to just jump right on in. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've had a few
No
extra
small
new
talk.
additions
We don't need any small talk.
Oh, do you want Okay, for the listener, I do apologize that we are skipping a little bit of small talk today. But don't forget to like, follow, share, and save.
She's
follow
a woman
us on
of business.
TikTok.
There's a and we have a
and Josh is joining us for this episode.
special guest host.
Yeah, special guest host.
Guest
you guys
host
can banter
producer.
all you want after. Okay, so we had I think 2 or 3 more additions to the listener's hat, so that's exciting. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, and disclaimer, remember, minimal preparation, minimal.
I reviewed the list of topics after you mentioned that you had texted it out, and I looked at what we had, and I was like, oh, there's one I hope we pull. There's one I hope we pull.
Okay. Let's see what it is.
Hang on.
No offense to the person that submitted this, but this is one that is very tricky. This is one that got added today, actually.
Oh, God.
Immigration and the borders.
Oh, shit.
Oh, this is not the one I wanted.
No, sir.
Can I go back to being a producer?
I can take that role today if you'd like.
Yeah.
I'll adjust
Adri, you get the whole floor. Adri, you get the floor.
Adri, you better, in honor of the border, take a shot of tequila and have at it.
That is actually a really good idea because we're going to talk about the wall.
I guess I will just start. I'll kind of start off because I'm just going to be super transparent. I don't know a ton about the policies and what was in place and what was not in place and the people coming in and Governor Abbott shipping them to other sanctuary areas. I just know the clippings from the news. I don't claim to be well versed on political stuff. This is one of those. I'm not. I hear the clickbait of it being drugs and murderers and all that. I don't believe that. That everyone coming over the border is a murderer.
But we can agree that we have an immigration issue, yes or no?
Yeah, I think there's definitely been a large influx of people in the last.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna be just honest. I don't feel educated, to even have an intellectual conversation about this. To be honest,
you can have a conversation based on what you think, based on what you know, right? We both agree there's clearly an issue.
Yeah, we could make this a multiple choice test and I can answer it.
Yeah. Do you think it's an issue? Circle A if yes, B if no.
So I just don't know what all the changes or why we have this influx. But I'll let you take the lead is my point. And if I have or if Josh has something to add in, feel free to chime in because this again was added today and I was like, oh shit, I don't know anything about that. Maybe I should look into it a little bit. And then we pulled it. Yeah. I live pretty close to the border, so I have that in common.
But I will say, and I'm not one that's ready to spit straight facts about anything because like you, I have a high level understanding, but I do know there is a clear and present issue with our immigration system. It's very broken and complex, and it's not really as easy as just go apply and get on the list. Yes, sort of, but generally speaking, you need to have some kind of sponsorship, employer, family, whatever, depending which country you come from. The line line, quote unquote,
Yeah.
is very
The
long.
invisible line.
The
queue. Call it the queue. The Ticketmaster queue.
It's not a clear system, and being in the role that I am in, like the way that it works for corporations when you deal with bringing people in for work and what have you, it's not. I think that it's just a complex system, but that aside, we have a very big issue, I think, with the border. Like, it's not secure. There is way too many.
Those are kind of two separate issues. So the first one you're talking about is legal immigration, which is
legal
intentionally designed to be difficult, because if you go the legal route, and that is the case with every country, it is an extremely tricky process with any country, and there's laws in place. And it's always hard because you're trying to immigrate and live in another country that is different from your own. And most places are pretty hard to do that. So that's
hang on,
why
let me
that's
finish.
tricky. But then there's the illegal piece, which is the border issue. Those are they're just two different forms of immigration. I don't want it to be like it's all one big problem.
Up. Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah, they are two different issues. I think each issue kind of feeds each other in a way, depending, because the system is the way it is, which I don't necessarily think the system is 100% flawed, but there are issues with the system that we have in place, and just the deadlock, like the gridlock with things and the expediency. Then you have this separate issue of a lot of people trying to come here, some legally, some illegally, but some of those illegal approaches, or those people are maybe can't go through the system legally. So if you don't have sponsorship, you can't do that. So therein lies this conundrum of like, then you have to come in illegally. And so for me, I definitely recognize that we have a serious issue with our borders and the security of that as one piece of it. And then also people coming here that don't maybe have the sponsorship. I don't necessarily disagree with that concept. Like, I think having sponsorship is probably at least one of the best ways to ensure that the people are not criminals, which sometimes they are, or they're going to be gainfully employed and contribute to the economy and like pay taxes and all of that. So having that job security, or like having family here, like having a bona fide reason to be in this country other than just pure desire. So I think that it is good that we have that, but I also think like it doesn't create a lot of pathways for people who are looking for a better opportunity. Regardless of all of that, I don't think people should be crossing the border illegally and storming the border the way they do, but I think that happens because we don't have good security. Like, we're not addressing the issue. And you can come here and get like free shit depending where you go. Like, you get free healthcare and free, or all kinds of benefits that US citizens don't get. And that, I feel, is problematic as well. But that incentivizes people to do these things that they do when they're
Yeah.
It's a very hard. So one, I think the border crisis is not like an easy thing to solve. We have two of the largest land borders in the world. I mean, we have states that are the size of European countries, right? So it's extremely difficult to enforce a border that large equally. And you also have the issue of across that border are multiple states, both ends, whether it's the Canadian border or the US Mexico border. You're talking about multiple states with different governing factors and different views and different ways of doing things. And you have state government, and you have federal government, and it gets really complex. And like you were talking about, with certain states will provide better benefits, some won't. I don't think there's like an easy answer to solving. People are always going to come over the border. I think my biggest issue when it comes to people talking about the border crisis is they always try to make it out like all the people trying to cross illegally are refugees,
No, they're
and
definitely
that
not.
were like, I know, but you'll see a lot of buzzy clicks of we are locking up refugees and people who are fleeing violence, and
Mhm.
that may be true, but there's actually two classifications. And I only know this because I did a course when I was in the Air Force. I went and did a course in Washington D.C. for the U.S. Agency for International Development, which is who handles placement of refugees in the U.S. So there are two classifications. There's displaced persons and there are refugees. A displaced person is someone who has fled their home and no longer has a home, essentially homeless, and has fled their home country and is looking for a home somewhere else. That is the majority of people crossing the border. Whether they have fears or they live in a dangerous place doesn't necessarily make them a refugee. A refugee is a very specific classification. You have to apply for refugee status
Yeah,
with
you
the
do.
U.S. Agency for International Development. And a refugee is someone who literally, if they stay home, there is a wanton fear of repercussion or death. So basically, if they
Mhm.
stay in their home country, they are going to be killed and no
Right.
longer be alive. So they can apply for refugee status and flee out of fear for their life or their family's lives.
Mhm.
And so
Like
when
Ukrainians,
yeah,
when the whole invasion happened, they were able to come and declare refugee status, and there's
but
like
it's not blanket for every Ukrainian either.
it's not. It has to
It's
be
it's
reviewed on a
it's
case
an
by case.
individual case of why is your family being targeted.
Correct. Like what you have to be able to
Fleeing a
support
war
that
zone would make
with
you a
why.
displaced person. Fleeing a war zone is what would qualify you as a displaced person, or Venezuela, where people were fleeing Venezuela and other countries in South America because of violence. That makes you a displaced person. You had a good reason for leaving, but it wasn't targeted to you specifically, whereas a refugee is being targeted specifically. And they
Right.
have a case and they apply for status and they get benefits. So I think a lot of people get up in arms. I've seen different news stations do it, and they just kind of use the blanket term refugee for anyone leaving a
Because
violent
it
place.
garners sympathy
It
from
makes you
people.
feel sympathetic. So then people are
Yeah.
up in arms when we're taking illegal immigrants and enforcing our border, which to me is just a crazy thing to be upset about because, like, that's the
Mhm.
whole reason we have a border. So enforcing it, whether they are fleeing a violent place or not, there's legal pathways and every country has means of enforcing their border. You can't just like
Mhm.
travel to Europe on vacation and then decide I'm moving here and stay there. You're technically illegally emigrating and they will come after you and they will arrest you. Like that is not just a US thing, but for some reason the US media likes to portray it as like we're these heinous, awful people who are just trying to lock up children,
Yeah.
and that's not really the case. I mean,
It's
unfortunately, people bring their kids with them, and if they're all they're all illegal immigrants, then
it's
they all get the
propaganda
same.
for sure.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing, but it's never going to be solved. Like you're never going
Yeah.
to stop illegal immigration, and you're never going to. And as far as legal immigration goes, it should be difficult. It should be tricky. It should be confusing.
100%.
Every country's system for immigrating legally is extremely tricky and convoluted and crazy because if you really want to immigrate there legally, you're going to have to put in the work to do it because someone who was willing to put in the work is probably going to be a valuable member of society.
Yeah.
Someone who's willing to do
Well,
all the legwork to get there legally.
so I think that kind of like brings up a good thought for me when you're talking about it should be difficult. And I agree. And especially when it comes to sponsorship, as I mentioned before, but like, so taking it to a different angle, immigration within corporations. So currently you can come on a visa and work for a company if you meet certain criteria, depending on how long you've worked for that entity outside the country, or there's a lottery system. So depending on which path they take, right, they can come over with the company and work. But I find that to be somewhat problematic in the amount of people that do that every year, like millions of people, because, and this also goes back to, I think, a bigger issue with like our education system, but that's a different conversation. But we are essentially, and I think this is why people say they're taking our jobs. And in a lot of cases, that does happen. But I think it's because there's not a lot of people that do specific tech roles that are way more common coming from other countries where they emphasize like math and science and that technology learning. And that's just not something that seems to be a priority in our society. So you have this influx of people legally migrating here, but it's a large number and doing roles that potentially Americans could do, but there's just less of a job market for them doing specific types of roles. And I think that is, or can create more issues down the road if we don't like focus on creating more of a math and science driven education starting at a young age so people can evolve and be equipped to do a lot of these tech roles and coding and all of that, because we're basically a very tech driven society, you know, and
Yeah.
that's a big chunk of people that come here to do other jobs, you know.
To be fair, to keep it on the immigration thing, not going to education, someone here working on a visa is not a citizen. They are legally living here, but they do not have citizenship, right? So
Correct. But
that's
they
not
can
really-
start their path to citizenship and get a
Absolutely.
green card right away.
Sure.
So,
And
and
that's
depending
fine.
on the country that you come from, some of those people are accelerated in time, and some the line is very long. So where the US has countries where there's a bigger chunk of people coming here, that line is longer. And for countries that are where there's not as big of a demographic of people coming here for certain roles, that line is shorter. It doesn't take as long. And the government tries to diversify their applicant pool too. Like there's a whole lot of stuff that goes into it, but still you can start that path, and there are things within that process that allow you to stay here essentially in perpetuity until you get your green card, depending on when you file that process. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to leave. It does happen, but there's a lot of ways to get back once you've already gotten that visa to get you here to work. But
Do you have any thoughts, Alyssa? I've just been for the
Good
listener.
active listening.
Alyssa's face throughout this whole recording has been pretty great. Just
yeah. Well, I'm just listening. I like don't disagree. Like I said, it's
a fascinating
I truly
topic.
feel like and this is probably my own fault. Like I probably should take more time to learn about these sorts of things. Like that's just a fact. I probably should know about the policies and how it affects different things. So yeah, I just feel very like I don't have an opinion because I'm so uneducated. Like I just see like the videos of like the swarms of people and I'm like, oh fuck, that's not good.
it's not.
Well, yeah, I mean,
And
to put
like
it in
being
like
able to
simple
come here
terms,
and
that
like
is
what was it like
a
I
visual
saw, and again, so it's like also just
representation of
stuff I
our-
just see, but it's like, oh, if you come to, I don't know if it's just California or not, but like you can become like a police officer now if you're an illegal immigrant. And I was like, what?
I'm not surprised. Nobody wants to be a cop anymore, but that's a whole different tangent.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and you can
okay,
you can actually you can enlist in the military without U.S. citizenship. They don't open up every job, but there are certain
Who
jobs
cares
you
if
can
you want to
have
fight?
That is
as a
true.
Put 'em
non-citizen.
on, like, no, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. But
Front line.
No, you're not.
This
It's
we skipped a little
as
bit
funny
of
as you were
banter.
trying to be. Most of the jobs, hold on. Most of the jobs they offer in the military to like non-U.S. citizens are like you can be a cop
The
or you can be
front
like an
line?
infantryman. Like you can go shoot a gun. Yeah, if you
Yeah.
want to go shoot a gun and get shot at, have at it, buddy. Like that.
Yeah, if you're going to defend us.
But it does provide a pathway to
Jerry, you
citizenship,
wanna
even for those
join the
people.
Marines?
If you enlist as a non-U.S. citizen, it provides a pathway to citizenship. But
Yes, that's right.
at the same time, you're not going to have a fun time. Like you're going to have a shitty job the whole time you're in the military, but it does open up a pathway. So some
Yeah.
people are willing to do it because they're like, oh, I don't have a sponsor. I don't have whatever, but I'll get over there and I'll I'll enlist and I'll join the military and use that as my way to become a citizen.
Yeah.
But it was kind of funny that you're like, if they want to fight, have at it. Yep, no, that is exactly what it is. We're like,
Yeah,
here's a
I
gun,
feel
man.
like that would, yeah.
Which could be dangerous because, like, what if they were like they're spying, you know, and they're like, "Ooh, we can just enroll in the military," and now we've got like this covert operation
Well,
going.
they're
with
not going to
somebody
give them
coming-
like an operational
they don't
intelligence
get- they don't-
position.
They don't get
No,
clearances.
spies don't need to
don't-
be. They can still like hear what's going on.
He's like,
Trust.
I
I mean,
know how these military guys talk.
Sure. No, yeah.
he's all,
Here's the thing: they're not going to get anything of value. They're not going to be on like secret operations or anything. Like they're put at the front gate and they check IDs, and then they get put on the front lines and they do stuff. They're not.
yeah.
They're not going to gather valuable
They put 'em
intelligence
at
from
the
the position they
border.
hold.
They're not going to be at the
I'm
border.
on duty.
My schedule next week is Thursday through Saturday,
Yeah,
10 to
Come
4.
on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturday. Every other Saturday. That's when you see them storming the border because they're like, Jorge's working.
Oh my god!
Okay. We're,
Jorge's working the Canadian border, right?
yeah.
He's up there in North Dakota.
Oh
No.
my gosh. Speaking of,
What a
okay, did
move.
you guys watch the newest season of Fargo?
I don't watch
No,
Fargo.
I haven't watched Fargo.
I never have seen it before in my life, but of course, my podcast, Armchair Expert, they did a Fargo week. And so I told Matt, because he's always looking for shows to watch together. I said, well, I would be interested in Fargo now. He's like, oh, really? And it is so good. And this new season has John Hamm and Juno Temple. And you don't have to watch, it's one of those shows you don't have to watch the previous season. Like each season is like its own series. Like you don't have to watch the first one to understand the second one. It's a different story each season. But anyways, it takes place in North Dakota. That's why I said that.
I'll have to check.
Yeah, it takes place in Fargo, North Dakota.
And another thing, since I skipped over banter, another hot button clip I saw, I know it doesn't have to do a lot with immigration, but the city of San Francisco is literally paying criminals, because you said nobody wanted to be cops anymore. They're paying criminals to not commit crimes.
Oh my God.
They're like, you are a criminal. We will give you
What a
$300 a month if you do not commit any crimes.
What
Are
a
you
time to be
kidding me?
alive.
I'm going to move there and start committing.
I swear. I swear.
$300 a month ain't shit though. You're still gonna commit
No, I
crime.
know,
Like, they're
I
gonna
know,
bump those
but-
numbers
But
up.
it's so
Sadie,
bad up
let's
there.
go. We're
It's
robbing.
it is so gnarly up there with like all the like it's just crazy. Yeah, that they've gotten to the point. It was like defund the police, and I don't want to get into defunding the police right now, but it was like they defunded them so much that then the crime just went up, and so now they're like, well, shit, we got yolk on our face, and so they're like, okay, let's
Instead of
going
funding
back
the
to
police,
cops-
let's give money to criminals.
yeah, instead of going back to the cops and be like, sorry, we
I
maybe
think
like
they missed the point.
yeah, we took too much of your budget away. Our bad. No, instead of doing that, they're like, okay, let's redirect funds to the criminals.
Whoever got that light bulb in their head, like they should get
They're
a
like,
raise.
It's like this.
Yeah, this guy's
like,
onto something.
There's our clip for
Dean,
TikTok.
I have an idea.
I have an idea. Let's give them we took from the cops, give it to winning.
Oh my god.
Oh shit.
That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
I thought that was quite
So-
funny. Matt and I were like, what is going on? Oh my god.
California, you guys are like weird
Oh,
shit happens
we
in
are going
California.
quickly down the toilet.
Which is crazy because growing up there, like I don't like my memories of California, which is probably why I don't ever want to move back because they're so good.
Yeah.
Now I look back and I'm like, what is wrong with you people?
Yeah.
Like what happened to California?
know.
It used to be such a magical.
You also grew up in
place.
Orange County, which is still
True.
like a pretty
Yeah.
pretty tame place. Like it's always been kind of like a
Utopia.
it's a weird pocket of like there's no real downtown or like big cities, just like a large suburb.
Like,
Suburbia.
and I should
A
just tell
giant
the
suburbia.
listeners,
Boring.
which sounds very, but I feel like where we grew up with the circle, and so for the listener to give you a visual, if you've ever seen the movie That Thing You Do, in the beginning of the movie when they're filming in that circle and they're at the 50s diner, that's where we grew up. That's where we used to ride our bikes. That's
also,
like our hood.
if granted, most of our demographic is probably our age, but if you happen to be from a newer demographic, you can also watch the episode of Parks and Rec where they go back to Ben's hometown. That is the Orange Circle.
Also, to throw in another movie,
Big Mama's House.
Well, that one, but Accepted with Jonah Hill and Justin Long.
Chapman University.
Chapman University is used as the Harmon University is Chapman University, and then
That's right.
some old warehouse was where they built the South Harmon Institute of Technology, also known as SHIT.
So, fun fact about Chapman University, and I'm not proud of this today, but I was young and dumb. My friend Nicole and I actually
sold cigarettes there too.
Sold cigarettes on campus at 9 years old.
Bleep out her name. We used to go through the dorms. So I don't know if this still happens, but we used to have those jogathons, and you would try to get money.
Oh yeah.
But we would have the paper because we never actually did the jogathon or got money, and we'd black out the date, and we went through the dorms and we would get money. And we would get checks too, and we would go to the bank and cash them because back then you could do shit like that. But we would get many donations, and we went to Palm Market just as another childhood throwback
to buy cigarettes.
No, not
you
to buy
stole
cigarettes.
Money
just to
from
buy
poor college
food.
kids working their ass off at Chapman University and went to Palm Market.
I know. I was in like 4th grade. So at the time, to me, those college kids had
I think
money.
maybe your concept of time is off. I do not believe you did this at 9 years old? 4th grade, 100%. Not like 6th grade? When you're like 12?
No, we didn't live there when I was in 6th grade. This is when we lived in the black and white house.
I was a kindergartner.
No, we lived on
Monterey.
Yeah,
You're right.
Trust me, I remember. I have a very good memory.
This is
me and Nicole used to fucking run amok in that town, and so we got.
And where is she today? No, I'm just kidding.
She's in jail. I'm just kidding.
It blows my
Nicole,
mind.
I'm sorry, I did not mean.
It blows my mind that Palm Market, also known as what I would call it, the little store.
The little market.
Because I'd go there with Dad. I'd just ride bikes and we'd go to the little store. But
I called it the little market.
I called it the little
Palm
store.
Market was its actual
name. But Palm
name.
Market's the real name. But it blows my mind that Palm Market is still open, but Watson's isn't.
Yes.
Oh, I know. Well, it's just a matter of who bought it. Palm Market got bought. They renovated the whole thing. Now the check register's on the opposite side of the store. I don't know if you've been in there, but they did a really nice job with it. I will
just
say
for
that.
the viewers, this is like a tiny little
bodega
market. Yeah, like a bodega, but in Orange County.
Yeah. I know, and Watson's closed. So sad.
Yeah, but that was my jam. We'd go there and get Cheetos and candy and just all kinds of snacks. And so we literally made like a couple $100 from those donations.
Well, hey, now if you started doing that again, you can move to San Francisco and they'll pay you $300 to not do it.
I made more. I'm just kidding.
I mean,
this is in the 90s. So in the 90s, we did that, and $200-$300 back then was like $2,000 today.
How the fuck did Mom and Dad not catch on to the fact that you had all this cheddar?
Because we spent it all at Palm Market, and we took it to Nicole's house, and we would hang out.
You spent $200 at Palm Market? What? Just buying Doritos and like
Cheetos, any snacks. We used to eat those donuts. What are those donuts? Hostess donuts. We would buy packs of donuts and chips, and we would hang out by her pool, and we had the best summer.
I bet you did. It sounds like it.
That was our summer. Was eating our snacks, listening to music, and
rollerblading.
rollerblading,
Smoking cigs,
and
but
robbing.
don't worry,
people.
not inhaling.
Stealing cigarettes and robbing people at 9.
And let us just remind you, your son will be 9 tomorrow. Can you imagine
Oh my
him
gosh,
running
he's
amok?
an angel. An angel. He really is.
For
I'm
what
just
you
like,
think, for all we
no,
know,
he is.
he's slinging cigarettes on the school grounds, man.
He won't even, like, if I say the F word, he's like, Mom, don't use that language. I'm like, Mom, you
Who
said the
raised
F
you?
word.
Who raised you?
What is wrong with you, Jackson?
We're gonna go
Stop
buy your
that.
first pack of cigarettes.
Let me
You
show
don't
you how to
inhale, though,
sling
you
these
just puff.
behind Avon's.
You
Yeah.
just puff and you sell them at the dumpsters. That's it.
See, I feel like I'm doing what's right here because even the fact that I have alcohol in the house, I never drink it in front of my kids. So
Yeah.
they don't see me, like, they see that you can have a healthy relationship with these things, but I never drink in front of my kids. And they ask or once in a while I'll have like a glass of wine or something, and Jackson will be like, wow, Mom, you're going to drink? I'm like, it's one glass of wine. Calm down.
I
You
never
know?
drank in front of Jameson until COVID, and then we were bored AF in the house, and I was like, well, that went out the window. But I'm
have a
still
different-
drinking again, so it's fine.
Yeah, I have a different view on that. I'll drink in front of Melody. I never get drunk in front of her, but it's the same
Yeah.
thing. Like, I have no qualms with having a drink or two in front of her and showing her like it's totally cool
Oh,
to have
yeah,
a drink or two and move on from it. Like, you don't have to.
Yeah,
I don't want her to have the stigma of like it's bad. Don't
totally.
like it's
Yeah.
just a healthy thing.
My eyes.
Totally. And I agree I think that's why, like, I just don't drink in front of them because, like, I feel like for me, I don't need to. But
Yeah.
I guess my point being is we grew up in a household where there just was no alcohol. Drinking was bad. There
I
was
still remember
very
seeing Dad drink
absolute-
for the first time as an
27
adult.
years old. 27 years
freaked me
old. And
out.
he's like, oh, yeah, no, I'll take a beer. I was like, what?
Same with Mom. Oh my God. I know.
Well, Mom started a little before that. Anyways.
Yeah.
Um,
Anyways, well, what
Bleep that out.
a great episode.
Yeah,
that was,
good time, good topic. I
Thank
think that
you,
was fun.
sir or ma'am, who suggested that.
We're not going to call people by name when they.
No,
it's
we
anonymous.
it's all anonymous.
So
That
if
was
you
just
want
a
us to talk
heavy-
about something, we will.
Yeah.
we
that was
we
just
can't
a-
guarantee that we will know lots of things, but chances are we will. And
Yeah, that one just wasn't
send
for
us
me.
your-
But you
send
know
us
what?
your-
This did. We'll leave with. It did teach me that I need to be a little bit more educated. So thank you for shining that light in my face.
why
And on
don't
that
you
note-
know this?
Goodbye.
Bye. Love
Goodbye.
you.
Chat in the Hat is hosted by Alyssa Stiles and Adriana Marquez. It is produced by me, Joshua Stiles. You can find us on Instagram at Chat in the Hat Pod and wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.